Thank you, everyone. What a wonderful conversation and the opportunity to continue to educate ourselves and bring this conversation forward in multiple different facets. So glad to be here as a part of this conversation and community that's desirous of something different for all of us way into the future. I come now to offer a little bit of a perspective. I'll do a little bit of introduction of In Rhythm and then move into a conversation that I think is quite applicable and even coming after Martine's and the conversation around Mary and Martine's subject. We are a design and management firm that really focuses on reframing the idea of regeneration. And part of the opportunity we believe exists is recognizing that regeneration is more than agriculture. It really is a movement about understanding how living systems, which includes social systems, work together. And so how we reimagine what that design and work looks like is everything. From being able to bring this work into manufacturing and architecture and technology and public health and policy, as you guys have all brought out, government and community. Regeneration seen only within agriculture is both limiting and siloing the opportunity, both from a challenge standpoint as well as from an opportunity standpoint. It really is, when we think about a living system, about health and what about health we should be considering across all of these different facets of our society. And that is something that has been discussed and talked about for centuries. And many cultures have built an incredible amount of equity around caring for people, the environment, for those that are less fortunate as a means to continue to be in service to life. And we consider it an incredible pleasure and honor to be able to be a part of sharing a little bit of our insights into this conversation today. And in particular, I know I only have a few minutes, but we truly do stand on the work of many. From indigenous cultures to many organizations and movements that have really communicated and advocated and represented communities around the world. And I personally feel like we're in a place of where, you know, a lot of what we're doing is reaping and beginning to harvest a lot of the work that has been done for a long time, where there was a lot more backlash. And right now, regeneration is experiencing a significant surge, and it has the opportunity to continue to be a meaningful movement, but it also is wrought with the potential of being seen as a program or a project, when it really is representative of something more deeply held around health and vitality and well-being. And so when we think about this conversation today, I hope what few words I'll be able to provide to you will give a little hope. Hope in what truly is versus what we've been told. From the pandemic to Black Lives Matter and the current state of our climate and the natural environments, we need to believe that all of this can be better. And however, this requires, I believe, an incredible shift in thinking, an opportunity to see differently, to see the world through a different lens. And I'm talking about, you know, seeing yourself that way, your team, your organization, your communities, actually our global community very differently. It's not a small shift, it is a massive shift in how we see ourselves and one another, and it will take all of us to make this shift reality. In particular, I often say in a lot of our conversations that who needs to be represented in the Regenerative Earth Summit is all facets of society. Because for us to be able to make the progress we're all talking about, it requires voices from every part of our community. And that's not true. It's not represented. And we're continuing to embrace how to bring that representation and that those voices be integrated and actually have power to be able to influence change. For us to be able to really talk about those kinds of shifts, I also want to talk about another shift, and it was a major shift for me, especially since my history is rooted in this idea of regenerative or holistic agriculture. And it began when my eyes were truly opened in ways that I was unable to see before. And some of you guys may be aware of Alan Savory and the Savory Institute. I know Daniela Howell is here. And they have been incredible partners of Regenerative Rising and for several years and a lot of the work that's been going on. But they're dear friends and mentors and have been huge influencers in the work that In Rhythm does. And there is an incredible team of colleagues and partners on 6 continents that I've had the opportunity to be a part of, restoring and regenerating the world's grasslands. It has been truly a magical and transformational time in my life to be a part of all those conversations. But the most incredible thing that happened was the shift in how I was seeing the world and my part in it. I spent several years traveling the world, seeing degradation of land on every continent. Some research even suggests that over 75% of our current land base that's impacting 3.2 billion people is degraded. I remember several conversations and meetings with ministers of agriculture, of the environment, in several nations around the world. And the conclusion was there is no hope. The land can no longer sustain us. The land has become a desert, a bona fide wasteland, and we need to move people to the cities. And that wasn't just a one-off viewpoint. It was repeated over and over again in conversations. Can you imagine if we think about it holistically across all aspects of society, what the disruption of culture and livelihoods and economies would be to disrupt and move billions of people to cities? This was not just a one-off conversation. It was described and discussed over and over again in lots of different large national venues. Well, therein lies the shift, the opportunity. What Alan Savory did is he bucked the status quo and the current thinking of the day and began reframing the conversation from desertification to regeneration. And if we can create the conditions for life, then life will emerge full of potential. But it's about creating those conditions. And what we saw in the man-made deserts of the world became more about deserts, but hectares of hope versus despair. Imagine 5 billion hectares of hope. When everyone else saw degradation and displacement, he saw regeneration and potential, inherent, beautiful, and unrealized potential waiting to be unleashed. It was transformational for me. I totally still remember viscerally what it was like when I began to recognize the power of that thinking, the power of that view, of being able to see billions of hectares of deserts or desertifying landscapes as full of beauty and potential. And as a result of that, it became a mission for me to be a part of those kinds of movements. And even more than that, I knew that this ability to see potential in despair and degradation was actually my life's calling. Now, what is that application to today? What is the shift that I am talking about for you, for us? For centuries, maybe even longer, we have designed our organizations, our institutions, our public policies, our societies in a way that have degraded our very souls. We've seen people as parts in a cog, commoditized and replaceable. And we continue to design that way, even unknowingly designing that way. This has persisted to the point that we've designed structures that have dehumanized, displaced, and degraded our communities across our entire planet. Physical, mental, and emotional well-being has been extracted from our most precious communities, and economic opportunity has been reallocated or redirected. In actuality, what I often say is we've reduced our soils to dirt, our people to parts, and societies to machines that have killed the very life that sustains us. But I think we have a choice. We can see people in these communities not as wasteland, or as some people may see as a burden with nothing to offer, or looking for ways to escape from redirecting energy and resources, or we can see this unrealized potential that the 7.8 billion people in the world is our biggest hope. It's not degradation, but it's full-on societal regeneration. They have a gift. We all have a gift, a beautiful contribution to the world we live in. The gift is unique to each one of us. We all have it, a uniqueness, a genius that we bring into the world. What does that look like for our institutions or organizations, our communities? To create conditions for your gift, your uniqueness to be realized in the context of your community. And there is no limitation. No one should be segregated out of that conversation or that opportunity. It is time for us to embrace a completely new mindset, which recognizes the inherent potential in all of us, in all of our communities. And instead of seeing our communities as a burden or a wasteland, we believe in the potential when life continues to create the conditions for more life. Industrialized agriculture began to tell us that for us to feed the world, we needed to use lots of chemicals and lots of inputs to be able to do that. And it's just not true. And for many of our societal leaders, there have been this belief that for our societies to move towards real productivity, real progress, that they need a few leaders to make all the decisions. And that is just not true. What does it look like for us to regenerate the potential and the health within communities by recognizing the uniqueness that we all bring, the uniqueness that comes from our unique ecosystems, the uniqueness that comes from our communities and the people that are a part of them? On a personal front, it's about embracing that belief, aligning our behaviors, and then designing our lives to put that beautiful genius to work. Too much time has been wasted trying to be a carbon copy of someone else. How about embracing a discovery process of understanding your deep why, aligning your passions, creating the conditions for your genius to show up in real connection and real relationship? We need our collective geniuses in the world. What would happen if 7.8 billion people were seen as a sea of potential versus a burden, with individual geniuses ready to be released versus capped and controlled and continued to be manipulated? This would change you. It would change me. It would change our communities, and it would change the entire ecosystem that we're members of. We cannot silo off any of this. Our national boundaries, our homes are not real separation. They're not, they are permeable. And we are as a part of so many different things that we need to embrace that permeability and recognize the lack of connectedness that we should be a part of as a society. You and those around you are worthy of this investment. The time to discover and reveal that deep genius inside of you so that you can release it to the world. Your uniqueness needs to be nurtured, developed, and released in a way that reframes the idea of leadership, not as top-down command center, but as a community working together to unleash the collective potential this world deserves to experience. Revealing genius in others should be one of the greatest priorities and motivations for leadership in the workplace, in our communities, and in our society. Yes, we are in the middle of a massive shift, a shift of embracing the life right in front of us. Life exists in our land. It exists in our soils. It exists in our organizations. It exists in our communities. Life exists in you. Let's move our focus from commanding and controlling to creating the conditions for the uniqueness of life to emerge. General Stanley McChrystal wrote this in his book, Team of Teams. The temptation to lead as a chess master, controlling each move of the organization, must give way to an approach as a gardener, an enabling rather than directing. A gardening approach to leadership is anything but passive. The leader acts as an eyes-on, hands-off enabler who creates and maintains an ecosystem in which the organization operates. What can we do to embrace that kind of mentality, that kind of mindset, the idea that there is a livingness in all of us? And embracing and designing around it is the best possible opportunity for potential. I just want to take a deep breath and say loudly, we are not machines. We are unique members of a living system. I'm going to repeat that. We are not machines. We are not cogs. You are unique. We are unique members, and we need to nurture that uniqueness and that livingness to be able to solve all the things we're talking about. It does not get there through industrialized processes. It will continue to degrade us. It will continue to separate us. It will continue to make it more difficult for us to connect in a way that could be transformational. There are so many lessons from nature, so many lessons from indigenous cultures, so many lessons from people if we just listen. Let's continue to take that deep breath and recognize the uniqueness of who we are, the uniqueness of the opportunity in front of us right now. And that with recognizing it, it truly can be a gift to you, a gift to your community, and a gift to all those who need it the most. Thank you, and thank you for your time and the opportunity to express these views today.